What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV back here for another late night session for you guys today, and we're going to talk all Thomas Frank, Brian, and Mbuemo. Going to touch a bit on Ange again as well. But how is everyone doing out there?
No longer your birthday, Ben?
No longer my birthday. No.
No longer your birthday. No need to be nice to him anymore.
Yeah, thanks for that. But look, let's get straight into it and we'll see what we're thinking. First of all, to talk about Thomas Frank. Ben Jacobs says that Thomas Frank has told Brentford he wants to leave for Spurs. Frank's camp are already in talks over terms, with the Brentford boss the clear front runner now to replace Ange Postecoglou. Sky Sports says that Brentford are prepared to listen to offers for the Tottenham from Tottenham for Thomas Frank, who are interested in speaking to Spurs if given the permission. And Romano says that conversations have taken place in the last 24 hours with Frank already, with some approaches before Postecoglou's sacking. Tottenham will speak to Brentford. Very positive conversations ongoing. Tottenham are aware of Thomas Frank's position. He wants the job. He's keen on becoming the new coach. So, yeah, things are progressing.
Absolutely. I'm expecting an announcement soon. Obviously, we heard last week, actually, I think on Sunday, the day that all those journalists came out saying they heard that Ange was going to be sacked, we did actually hear that Frank had already accepted the job, and maybe that seems to be coming to pass at the moment. I think for Frank, he probably feels like, look, how much further can he take Brentford? You know, he's taken them mid-table. He's consistently overperformed the wage structure. I think apparently I read every season he's been in the Premier League, he's the highest performing manager compared to the wages. But
wages to points ratio or something.
Yeah, wages to points. And when it comes to the next step for him at Brentford, he probably just feels that this is probably it for him. There's not much more he can do here. Time to test himself at a higher level. And I understand that. And obviously, he's been linked to a number of jobs before. Maybe he never really felt like it was the right time, but now it is. And Tottenham's a good opportunity. Coming into a Champions League, a young squad who, whatever we want to say about how great winning the Europa League is, we all know we underperformed in the league. And yes, there are reasons for that, but that's just the bare facts of the matter. We did underperform in the league, and he probably looks at that opportunity and thinks there's so much that can be done here, probably.
Yeah, and I think the way I'm thinking about it as well, now the kind of emotion of, the raw emotion of Ange going is kind of all settled down now. I'm kind of thinking about this in a different way. And I actually think, all said and done, if you review everything, look at what Frank's done. First of all, I've always said that I'm excited about the Frank appointment. But I actually do think this is the right move. I do think it's going to be better for us. And I think that Frank, what you know from him, very good coach, improves players. Yes, there's a question mark. Can he make that step up? For sure. But I'm just looking at him, and with the squad that we have, I think this could be a really good fit. I really do.
Well, on paper, he's the perfect Levy appointment, isn't he? Let's be honest. Like, Levy will be licking his lips about what Frank is capable of, considering his job. I've said before, I think had we lost that final, it's a no-brainer. Like, this is the obvious choice. Having won the final, now got in the Champions League, and you put yourself in a different space, not just from winning in the Champions League, but a different space in terms of where the club is at with the squad and the manager and the fan base. I think there's opportunity there to kind of build on that instead of disrupting it. So for me, I still don't think it's the right thing, given that we won that final and we're in a different space. But I guess from the hierarchy's point of view, which makes sense, they were probably before the final planning on sacking him, as we've alluded to, and clearly Frank was the front runner before then. So having won the final, for them, they didn't want to change course. They wanted to stick with, okay, we were deciding to do this before the final, and we're not going to change our decision regardless of whether we won. And clearly they maybe wavered a bit and thought, there is something going on here. Do we really want to make this decision? Maybe that's what took so long. They decided to stick with their decision, which I think that they decided before the final. And we heard even, I think from, was it Romano, saying they spoke to Frank before the final, before the end of the season. So I think that would be in line with that. So I think on that basis, I like, again, I think for Tottenham and for Levy, he's a pretty perfect man in terms of his body of work and what he's done and where we can go. But again, there's a lot of question marks. And as much as he could be another Eddie Howe and Pochettino, he could very easily be another Graham Potter or Nuno. That's where we're at.
My gut feeling is telling me it's the former rather than the latter, to be honest. I really think he's a top coach. I really do. And I think he's going to come in here. He'll get the respect of the players, in my opinion. And, you know, the players are going through the same thing as the fans now. Very raw emotions of losing a guy that they grew an affinity with and won something with. But at the end of the day, they're professionals and they want what's best of their career as well. So they won't want to throw another season down the drain. So the ones that end up staying, the ones that, because it's going to be hard for some of these players to leave as well, because, you know, are they going to get the right offers for the club? Are they going to be allowed to leave and all this kind of stuff? So at the end of the day, they're professionals, and I think they'll buy into Frank's methods and the way Frank works.
I agree with you. And I think if you give this guy, you know, time and patience, he can build something here 100%. What I'm worried about is, are the fan base going to give him time? That is something I'm worried about. And obviously, I think we should do any manager, and we should be fair to him. But having won that Europa League and got into the Champions League, and, you know, after a second year in a project that's just been ripped up, are we going to then be patient with a mid-table finisher if that's what's going to happen in the first season or something? Not to say that is. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe he'll hit the ground running and fantastic, for great.
I got a feeling he will, you know.
Huh?
I got a feeling he will hit the ground running.
Well, he might do. My point being, if I'm thinking logically, logically, it could take time. It could take time to get to, you know, top levels or whatever. And there's a good chance he might not win something in his first season. There's a good chance it might be a building process in this first season. And do the fans have stomach for that? And I'm pretty certain if we have a season like that, or we're, again, inconsistent or whatever, you know, you're going to get protests again. You're going to get pressure on the board. You're going to get a lot of fans being toxic and all that kind of stuff. Well, I guess I'm not calling it toxic. I'm just saying you're going to get a lot of disgruntlement, I should say. And
if the rumors are real, Sim, though, that about Levy, I'm not saying they are. I'm saying if the rumors are true about Levy, and he does end up going this summer, and then on top of that, we make a few like really nice signings, like we're going to get into potentially in Mbuemo. I'm not sure that's going to happen, but let's say we make some exciting signings this summer. That will get the fans well on board.
If Levy leaves, you can give him a decade. I think there'll probably be no disgruntlement. I agree with that. But I'm going off the assumption Levy's going to be here. Again, with all the Levy rumors, as much as there's noise, I'm more believe it when I see it. If Levy goes, right now I know there's noise, but I'll still be very, very shocked.
Manifest it, believe.
Manifest all you want. This guy is not going to go down without a fight, I'm telling you. So I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon, as much as there's a lot of noise. But look, I'm happy to be wrong. If I'm going to put money on it right now, I would put a lot of money on him still being here next season. That's what I would think. But if the noise is true and there is stuff going on, then 100%, I agree with you. I think the fans will be very patient with Frank. My point being, if it's another project under this ownership, and it's kind of has a stodgy start and it's not a great first season, I just worry the fans won't give Frank the time he probably needs in this job.
Yeah. Now let's get on to this Brian Mbuemo story coming from two different sources. Darren Lewis from the Mirror says that Thomas Frank has told Tottenham he wants to rival Manchester United for 60 million. Brian Mbuemo. Frank is set to be confirmed as Ange Postecoglou's successor next week and is keen to take Brentford's in-demand forward with him to North London. Tottenham would offer Brian Mbuemo around 130 grand a week, although bonuses would still leave them short of Man United's package to pull of Champions League football and Frank, who turned Mbuemo into one of the most feared forwards in the top flight. Alan Nixon says that Tottenham are trying to hijack Manchester United's move for Brian Mbuemo. Johan Lang, who worked with Frank at Lyngby, will play a key role in negotiations. So, I mean, it's basically, does he want to go join his boyhood club, earn a bit more money, or does he want to stick with Frank, play Champions League football, and come to Tottenham? Which button do you reckon he's pressing?
I think if you're putting the money into the equation, you know, apparently he's demanding 250 grand a week, which would put him 50 grand ahead of Son right now in as our highest earner. So will we match that? Is that something we're willing to do with this new Champions League money, or are we 100%? Or I know we should, but if we're being logical, we would probably tell him you'll be level with Son. That's what I think. You'll be on 200 grand a week, and you'll be a joint highest earner.
They're saying we're only offering him 130.
Who said that?
Well, I just read from the Mirror.
Well, then he ain't coming here if we only offer 130. I can guarantee you that. But if we're willing to at least make him our highest earner, or get close to what he wants, and he knows with Frank, he's got a good thing going. He knows that Frank knows what he's all about and how to get the best out of him. We've got Champions League football. United don't. There's no guarantee United get back in the Champions League next season, albeit they are looking very serious with their reinforcements. They got no European football. Amorim, whatever you want to say, has had a disastrous tenure so far. That's just a fact. It has been disastrous. I know he's not got his players and all that kind of stuff, and that could change next season. But from what we've seen, it's been a disaster so far. So there's no guarantee they get back into Europe next season. So he might look at that, think maybe going Frank, go to Tottenham and really raise my profile. Whereas I go to United, yes, it's my boyhood club, and that's where I want to be. But it's maybe a bit of a bigger risk in terms of how many good players have gone to United and just for one reason or another hasn't worked out. Is there a cultural problem there? All this kind of stuff. So I think it would be something to consider. But if we're intent on offering 130 grand a week, getting nowhere near his demands, I think he still goes United. I think the pool is still too strong, I would say. But I think with Frank coming here, I think it gives us a fighting chance. But again,
Frank's probably looking at it and being like, look, when I was Brentford manager, Spurs were the bane of my life, hijacking all the deals that I wanted to do. Archie Gray, they ended up getting Brennan Johnson ahead of me. Now it's my time to shine.
Exactly. Come on, let's do our own kind of hijacking. We've done a few hijackings over the last.
That's what I'm saying. We hijacked Brentford.
No, not just Brentford. A few just in general. Bergval, we hijacked. Dragoshin. Well, we kind of nearly got hijacked, then hijacked back. There's been a few hijackings, rehijacked. So I think, as I said, I think we can put a hat in the ring. I think Frank could put a good case towards Mbuemo as why he should come here. Whether it's enough, I'm not convinced. I still think he probably chooses the money in United, but at least we got a case forward.
There is no reason though why we shouldn't be offering parity with what Man United are offering right now. We're the ones that got Champions League football. We've got the ones that extra revenue coming through this club. All the extra revenue on top of that this club are earning. Plus, you've got players like Timo Werner, Fraser Forster, who are on big wages going out the door this summer.
Even rumours of Son. Potentially,
so
if he leaves, there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't break the structure.
Even rumours of Romero, there could be major wages going out the door this summer. There's two confirmed, right? In Timo, 165 grand a week. Fraser Forster, 75 grand a week. If we're serious and we really want to back this manager, you go and get an Mbuemo and you go and offer if he wants to go to Man United and it's his boyhood club and that's the reason he wants to go there, then fair enough. You're probably not going to get him. But if there is a chance that we can sway him with Thomas Frank in Champions League football, you have to go on pay parity with Manchester United and put your balls on the table.
Absolutely. And I've seen some suggestions like people are overhyping Mbuemo just because of one good season. It's rubbish. It's rubbish. He's been great ever since he came to the Prem. He's been great. He's only been getting better. Last season was his best season. And obviously it's a season where he really broke out in terms of consistent 20-goal season. But before then, his finishing was getting better and better and better. He was getting more and more goals each season. And now he's become this all-round Premier League forward who's like a devastating player. Like he was getting to this point even before. The problem before was his finishing. Man. The problem before was just his finishing, and now he's really mastered that.
And I feel like he would suit. Obviously, he suits a Frank system. That's where he built his name on. But he suits it a lot more than going to play Man United for Man United.
I think so. Well, United play kind of this narrow kind of 3-4-3, similar to like Glasner. But like Glasner made it work for like Olise and Eze. But I feel like with that kind of with that system, those kind of players like to have the ball to feet a lot more and play a bit more centrally, whereas I think Mbuemo very much likes to play in behind, running into space, that kind of thing. And Frank knows how to play him.
Exactly. Frank has got the best out of him his whole career. Even in the Championship, when he was making his name there, he was absolutely brilliant. So hopefully Frank will have that sway with him, and if he does, it could be very interesting. And if we bring in Frank and Mbuemo as his first signing, now that is real reason to be proper excited.
For sure. And I have to say, when I heard the news that Mbuemo was going to go to United, it made me so much excited for Frank. I was like, one of the main pulls of like me getting excited for Frank was he could bring Mbuemo with him. So if that wasn't going to happen, I was like, oh, I don't even want it anymore. But if that can happen, and also thinking he had such a great link up as well with Tony, if he can replicate that with Solanke, that could be great.
Last but not least, Ali Gold back on Ange says that what from he understands, a lot of players quickly got in touch with Postecoglou and got a very heartfelt messages back. There was certainly dialogue between the players and Ange in the last 24 hours. I mean, it's just sad to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, I was watching his video, Ali Gold. He was saying that a lot of people around the club, not just players, but staff and staff within the club, not just like footballing staff, but, just like admin and whatever, general staff. They've also been very affected by his loss, and obviously he was great around the club and stuff like that. So yeah, he'll be missed clearly, and look, it's gonna hurt. But I feel like the pain won't truly dissipate until we finally see Frank in the job, and we finally, once he gets his first words to the fans and starts repairing that wound that I feel anyway, losing Ange. Then it won't truly start to heal yet. But look, time's a healer. I'm sure Frank will get a run on side, but right now it's still pretty raw.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, don't get me wrong. As much as I've said, I think this is the good move. Like, it still hurts. He still goes a hero, and he's still a legend of this football club. As much as I was against him for a lot of the season, when it's all said and done, he's broken the trophy drought. European trophy, a significant trophy as well. We've said it a million times. So he does go with a heavy heart, and I will. I think all Spurs fans should hold him in high regard. For a very long time. As much as we hold, the greats of this football club that have brought home big trophies. So he's always gonna, hold a place close to us. But I just do feel like it's probably the right move to bring in a manager like Frank.
Look, again, I don't agree right now. But anyway, apparently, according to a report from the Daily Mail, there's a Premier League club that's apparently registered their interest in him. I wonder who that would be.
Yeah, I was speaking to Brian about this, and I said, don't be surprised if it's Nottingham Forest.
Because there's rumblings about Nuno, isn't there?
Not just because of rumblings about Nuno, but also Marinakis and Ange, the Greek connection. I just feel like it could be Forest.
Interesting, very interesting. And also, maybe they're looking at the conferencing and thinking, if we get Ange in, I think that we could easily win that. I mean, they should win it with Nuno anyway, but maybe they're thinking, Ange has won a European trophy. Would he want to add another one?
How harsh would that be on Nuno, though?
Huh?
How harsh would that be on Nuno?
It would be, but apparently they have tense relationships for one reason or another. That would be a complete switch up, wouldn't it, for Forest? So I don't know if it'll be a smart move, but it could be an interesting move.
Yeah. And finally, I'm just going to bring up a few more messages from players that have come in. This one from Brandon Austin, just saying, "Boss, thank you for everything, and giving me an opportunity." And Brandon Austin, been in the club for so long, finally got his opportunity and actually did himself in the club, a really good service.
He did. It was brilliant for I think 3 games he played. Didn't put a foot wrong.
Was it 2?
He played against Hoffenheim. He played against Newcastle, Elfsborg.
Maybe Elfsborg. Yeah, maybe
Elfsborg as well. Obviously, he got man of the match on his debut, didn't he, against Newcastle? So clearly, Andrews, trusted him on that game. Well, didn't have a choice really, but he did well. He did very well coming in. So I think he'll be forever grateful for Ange giving him the opportunity.
The next one was from Matisse Tell saying, "Thank you, coach. All the best for the rest of your career." And it's going to be interesting with Tell now because obviously they've been in negotiations So, do you reckon that Spurs are still going to try bringing in Matisse Tell, or this was relying on Ange? Was this a club signing? Was this on Ange's instruction? What do you reckon?
I think he's quite similar to what Brentford play in terms of their forward line. Like in terms of his profile, he's not too dissimilar to like a Sade. So I think Frank would want him. I think Frank would see that as a real good opportunity to develop him and the talent there. And I think for that, if we can get a good price for him, I still think we're going to go forward with it, I reckon.
Mm-hmm. And
whether he would want to stay, though, without Ange, I mean, that's a different question, I guess.
I don't know. He just seems to love it at Spurs. Maybe it was because it was under Ange. I don't know. But he just seems to love it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he did. Maybe it's not an Ange thing. But I can't really say. But it'd be interesting to see if him leaving has affected anything from his side.
I think Frank could get a lot out of Tell. I actually think he suits Frank more than he suits Ange. And last one was Wilson Odebear, who just said, "Thank you for everything, coach." And Odebear, in a weird way, I think probably suits Ange more than.
I agree. I don't know what his future looks like under Frank. Maybe it's a bit more central. I don't know. It's going to be interesting because he doesn't. The kind of how he plays his forward players isn't so much suited to someone like Odebear, but we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be very interesting to see what kind of profiles fits what and who fits where.
Yeah. But look, that is the update that we have for you guys. So let us know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all those news stories.